Social media is the answer. I think that's the answer to a lot of people's questions. If you guys are not familiar with me personally, my name's Elijah Settles. I have been lurking on the internet as both a creator and a user for many, many years. And I think I've learned a ton about this space. I've never fully jumped into anything, especially of this nature. But I'm more and more inclined these days for a couple of reasons that I just felt like sharing today in case it benefits anyone who feels similar to my story. I got into film and music at an early age just because of my circumstances. It was the resources around me. And I think that is true for a lot of 20-somethings and millennials and Gen Z in general. There's this relationship we have with technology that is a little bit unique to us because we're the firsts in a lot of ways, especially to use it with the internet. So what I think is a common question that I get asked is, should I be on social media? Should I be pushing the thing that I'm doing entrepreneurially? And I can answer this based on my own experiences, of course, and how it relates to me. And I would like to answer that question by sharing a answer that was given to me at a talk that I was at Audio Feed Festival here in Illinois. Andy Squires, who is a singer-songwriter, he's a person that you should go look into. It's really, I don't want to cut him short by any means. He was asked a question by a young person in the audience after his talk about, essentially he wanted to put music out and he didn't want to use social media. And Andy Squires very generously and very gently gave him this sort of parable, if you will, about a farmer taking their produce to a market. And he goes on to say what you can probably intuit already, which is there's a farmer who planted seeds and grew crops for a whole season and then decided when the harvest came that he was going to go into town and that he was going to sell that produce at a market where people were expecting to trade. And I think the point he was trying to make that he did elucidate was, if you are laboring over something and a product that you want to offer up into a market in exchange for some sort of value, usually being financial, you have to take your produce to where people expect to exchange. And I'm certainly guilty of this thing where I just believe that somehow people are going to find me versus me finding that centrifugal place. It would be strange for someone to go to a farmer's door and knock on the door and say, hey, I see you're a farmer. I would like to buy some crop. That would be a strange thing. So I think that as this relates to what I would like to talk about mostly, which is music, you just can't be so prideful when it comes to that stuff. And that's challenging because there's this other end where you can spoil the thing, when you make it more about the market than you make it more about the planting and the laboring and the harvest. That stuff is important. That has to be ready when you get to the market. So if you're only spending time at the market and you're barely showing up with anything, you're not going to do very well. And there's going to be a reputation. People want to come back. I mean, if anyone goes to a farmer's market still, you know that it's much more than just like your traditional crops nowadays. And I just think that there is something to be contemplated there that a lot of people are not maybe making as practical as it really is. So there's another thing that I wanted to talk about, which is space. I've recently moved into a new place, and I have a room that is completely dedicated to music. This is another corner of which you probably just saw in the other angle that I was filming this video today. And I just want to say that is like an absolute blessing in my life and something I would encourage any creative to pursue. If you can find a space, it does not have to be fancy, but I think it does need to be inspirational. And it also cultivates habits when you are intentional about that. I'm used to recording in basements and closets and, whatever like sort of extra space that is available in a house. I've traveled a lot for work. I have been on the go for most of my 20s. So I'm very comfortable with being creative wherever I'm at, which is a great skill set to have. Being creatively nimble is a superpower of sorts. So I think there's something to be said about that. But as I am starting to become more long thinking in my visions of what I want to do, I'm realizing I have to set myself up in a way that me personally can become more consistent, because I've gotten really good at doing like 80% of what I want to do very quickly, but then never really finishing or never really putting in the extra 20% of the effort that I wanted to, but just didn't have the space to do it in or the time to do it in. So I would say that that's really important. That's also true of social media. This video today is even for me an exercise in which to give myself space to share and to offer up what I would like to be creative and expressive about. This is me cultivating a way to... Sorry, I just thought I heard a noise. This is a way for me to also go to the market, so to speak. And I'm hoping that becomes a community-oriented thing as well. I mean, I'd like to believe that the people that are going to markets end up sort of becoming a market community of sorts. And that sounds really businessy or whatever, but I will say some of my best friends have came from just doing the work. And I was just telling my girlfriend last night how interesting it is to me that my primary work, maybe two of the things that I do for my primary source of income, but also are two of the things that I've become immensely passionate in, they were cultivated by me attempting to help set someone else up to do the thing that I ended up taking on. And that's hilarious to me, but it also is just such a reality. Like, in pursuit of just connecting dots for people and trying to bring people together, you also are bringing yourself towards one another, but you're literally bringing yourself closer to other people. So I think social media does that too. I think that, all the things that I'm talking about, those things all exist on social media. And as we relate to it, as humans, that's obviously where you have to be very, very accountable. And I think maybe that's where I would like to end this on, which is just the subject of accountability through social media. If you struggle with social media being a distraction, you have to give yourself space from it. I've become friends with someone who I work with recently that got a flip phone. He did not get rid of a smartphone. He just said he believes the problem is that he has the smartphone in his pocket, and that there's just no way to avoid overutilization when it's just attached to your hip. So he has that smartphone for when he needs to utilize it, using social media, using the camera on it, using all those things. And his flip phone has a camera and I think ways to play music, but is primarily only accessible for calling and texting, and some very, very basic elements, which you hear more and more people doing that. So I think that relates to space again. And I think what we're learning, as we go, is that we have to create the right spaces on these social media platforms. So if that's something you're struggling with, I actually would really love to engage more with people who have rhythms of life that they've found successful. So I genuinely would like for you guys to comment down in this video and just tell me about your experience and tell me about ways in which you have overcome or are still struggling with maybe your workflow and your productivity and your fulfillment as it relates to social media. And maybe we can find a way to hold each other accountable, in a very lighthearted way. So if that's you, I would love to hear more about your story. And that is completely okay if it's based on doing well or not doing well, because I think that this is going to become a more regular thing for me that I would like to, just talk about. And then as I am building out this space, I think that I'm going to increasingly share how the space is being created with that in mind. So thank you guys for watching this, and subscribe if you're feeling like you are wanting to be a part of this journey. And yeah, I will see you guys on the next video.